Merry Christmas, this is part 2. Watch the first part here, they are in order, but the story goes something like making every farm because these people were too weak to actually do it and I need a lot of farms for my Megabase. Let's continue. We left off at passive mob farms, with 69 out of 136 farms built. While playing I built these completely out of order, but for the sake of this video we're going left to right through this entire list, meaning next up is a glow squid farm. I just made some water streams with a roof below my main storage, and speaking of that, it's actually on the list. Technically this isn't a farm, but I use my storage multiple times a day, so it just made sense to put there. I do count an autocrafter as a farm though, and I'm not talking about the weird 1.20.3 update, but the good old 3x3 crafter. This one even makes use of burning the boxes to unload the items faster, and with sub-chunk alignment, you can craft up to 2.4 million items an hour, if you have enough input. This crafting mod is called Item Scroller, there are many YouTube tutorials on it. And oh yeah, the glow squid farm was done after adding a collection system I almost forgot. They fall and die, it's nothing special. The smallest chicken farm, at least according to unscientifically, isn't special either, it does exactly what you'd expect from it. I should probably mention the Megabase isn't planned in-game or drawn or whatever, it's currently all just in my head, so whenever I'm making a new farm around the perimeter, I need to take a guess where the Megabase will be, so the farm placement doesn't ruin my plans. This makes most of the positions pretty weird and seemingly random, but trust me, it's going to make sense eventually. Moving away from the perimeter, I'm going to make a mob in a bucket farm. Yes, I was just as confused as you when I first saw this. But by making a big waterfall with pistons in the sky, you can reliably spawn tropical fish and collect them at the bottom with a bucket. The only use for this would be to breed axolotls, but I didn't plan to do that anyway. With the Hero of the Village effect, after defeating a raid, villagers drop you some presents. You can technically make this into one farm, but again I have no use for this farming method, which is why I'm going the ultra cheap route of saying here are villagers and that's it. Don't believe me it works? Get Bad Omen, defeat a raid and come back, which starts the farm, stand in front of the villager and collect the items. I'm not sure what you expected from every farm, but let's move on to something useful. Tree farms are some of the most critical farms for any world or server. I already built pretty good designs for all regular types, but I updated to 1.19, meaning mangrove trees are also on the chopping board. Obviously, the completely cracked technical Minecraft community already made suspiciously fast mangrove tree farms, so I'm just going to yoink. For Crimson and Warped Logs, I killed 3 farms with 1 stone, farm, which is a Shroomlight farm. Shroomlights aren't even on the list because they are a byproduct from all Nether tree farms. I'll keep the leaf farms for later because I also ignored them until they were the only farms left when recording this video. I can finally work on my favorite category, plants. These are great, green, not dangerous and usually very simple to farm. Starting with vines, most of you have already seen this monster at my starter base, with a long water stream flowing past, well, vines. You mine them with shears and by the time you completed one cycle, they should have grown back. I made the weeping vine farm in part 1, but the twisting vines are a bit more complicated since they grow from the floor, so you can't just sweep the items with a flying machine, instead there's a minecart collection below. Same goes for bamboo and sugarcane, which led to me building the same farm 3 times, once with waterlogged leaves. I also built a pumpkin and melon farm between them, roll the time lapse. I will bundle many of these plant farms into one subcategory, bone meal. Many of these can be grown using it, or at least accelerate the farming speed. This also further justifies my choice of making that huge farm, because I told you I'd need it. Glow lichen spread when using bone meal on them, and because every side of a block counts as 1 lichen, a small chamber like this makes 360,000 per hour, if provided enough bone meal. You get inside through the trapdoor, and with the right aim, simply shear away. I currently use glow lichen as simple water stream breakers, but since they don't grow on their own, they are wonderful for adding texture on builds and terrain. Propagules grow below mangrove leaves. They have multiple stages before dropping an item though, so there's a second layer of dispensers to fully age the propagule. This piston breaks the propagule and it drops below in a chest, so now using these as saplings I can obtain an infinite amount of beautiful mangrove logs. Drip leaves don't grow on their own, but obviously bone meal can fix that. These are just decoration blocks and I don't know any other use for them. Break the plant with a piston and a hopper below the farmland collects the items. The same exact concept works for kelp, but this farm is bigger since I need around 100,000 dried kelp blocks, which I can smelt with my furnace array. I've had to AFK the bone meal farm throughout multiple nights, making around 8 million bone meal for every farm that needs it, and I'm still running out. One farm I won't use often is a sea pickle farm, because guess what? Bone meal. Similar to seagrass, they spread underwater on coral blocks, and by moving the floor they get broken. I'm definitely planning some underwater builds and they really add onto the ambience of them. I shall start another subcategory inside the subcategory with flower farms. This concept can be used for multiple things. A flower farm in the Nether only generates grass, meaning this is just a pure wheat seed farm. I did this before working on a general crop farm, which also makes seeds obviously, but this farm isn't limited by a player and works on its own, making it expandable and faster. The design I've used will be the same one I'm going to use for a huge flower farm, although a shifting floor is enough to generate both types of nether fungi for the nether tree farms. This one in particular has been made by the NTF Gordon Collier, who also made the Shroomlight farm. If you want to know anything in that regard, he's your guy. I have him linked below. Instead of making a shifting floor, you can also make a shifting wall, but the only plant making use of this is the cocoa bean. This design really has been made tiny, but after quickly growing the bean with 4 dispensers, the wall gets moved in a very hypnotizing way. Obviously you can craft brown dye out of this, and for the other dyes I've decided to make one farm for every single flower in this flower forest. Using a data pack I generated a huge area to find where each flower generates, again, link the video below. Flowers always generate in the same spot, no matter how often you use bone meal on them, so it's basically one huge noise function covering all flower forests. Like I said, I simply need to make the same farm in different spots, which I think needs another time lapse. Everyone knows how to farm tall flowers, I just made it a bit fancier with an on-off toggle for all 4 types and a central output. The last 3 farms, at least in this category, are hanging root, fern and grass farms. Again, flowers don't generate in the nether, and when shearing tall grass it drops 2 normal sized variants. Due to it being in the nether, the storage I made is a bit scuffed, but as long as it works I'm happy, and it does. Lastly, ferns can be multiplied with almost the same concept, difference being you have to place a small one, grow it tall, then after being destroyed it drops 2. Using some of the rooted dirt blocks from my other farm and spamming them with bone meal, you can make a damn fast hanging root farm, which get mined with shears. God, it really does feel like I'm building the same farm over and over again, so here's a cactus farm. I had to rebuild this cactus farm because it previously existed in my starter base, which has seen some things, let's put it that way. Same goes for the mushroom farm, but I only need the red type since I have enough brown ones to get all the mushroom blocks I need, but I never went AFK for the red type. In order to still have a brown mushroom farm, I'm just cool. I tested all nether wart farms I could find, and to be honest, all of them kind of sucked. Weird flying machines, super slow water streams, where not even a quarter of the farm is actual nether wart. You can't use bone meal to grow nether wart, so you just have to wait until it's grown. My farm consists of 1 soul sand and 1 nether wart. To use it, simply make extremely long autoclickers to break and replace the wart within a few hours of delay. I think this is my slowest farm, making less than 1 item per hour, but the wandering trader farm does come pretty close too. I'm obviously joking though, since I need more than 20 nether warts. After harvesting this a few times, I had all the wart I wanted and saved a lot of stress building uselessly complicated designs. Just like I mentioned in the first video, the timeline is a bit of a mess, so I actually built this wither rose farm before the skulk farm, making around 50,000 roses in the process. I actually need a decent number of sweet berries for my Megabase and its decoration, but you can, as always, spam bone meal to get an ungodly amount in a few seconds. To still be able to call this a farm, I got a fox and a minecart, which is enough to farm these. I still didn't update yet, so for now I'm marking these 3 as yellow. This leaves only chorus fruit left in the plant section, and let me tell you, you're in for a treat, since I want a 10-story high parking garage full of trucks, full of truckloads of chorus fruit for end warts and purple blocks. Or in short, I need a lot and I don't want to wait years, so this needs to be a fast farm. Fast chorus farms are a bit more than huge though, but I'm not backing down. Enjoy this 135,000 block farm time lapse. This design is a bit wonky, but basically the player rides around the entire farm in a minecart placing chorus flowers on the end stone. On the top there's another minecart activating 900 TNT dupers a few seconds before the player drives by the same location 100 blocks below. The TNT explodes on top of the chorus plants, making them drop the flower, since TNT now has a 100% drop chance of blocks. The detector rails below the player's minecart retract the end stone to break the rest of the chorus plant, allowing a new flower to be placed. To keep the minecart synced, there are some counting timers every 2 rows, which also dispense the player roughly 60 new flowers to place. They get refilled by a counter below after sorting out the chorus fruits. Similar to the vine farm, by the time the player made 1 round, the first plant should have mostly grown, ensuring high efficiency. Wow, okay, that was quite the beast, but the plants category is done. Next up will be a single fast nano farm to produce all the farmland crops like wheat, potatoes, carrots and even beetroot. That's the only farm left in the crops category, since I've already made the pumpkin, melon and wheat seed farm. Again, I made the seeds farm before the nano farm, so I'll remove it from the list since it's useless now. Well, and that's the crop category done. Told you it would be a quick one. Probably the weirdest category on this entire list is the quarry category. If you haven't seen my quarry video, it's greatly underrated as all my other videos, and that's based on your feedback, not my opinion. The concept of a quarry is obviously to mine a chunk of the world and obtain its resources, since you can't farm every item naturally generated in a Minecraft world. Normal quarries blow the blocks up, while the Silk Touch variants move the blocks towards the stationary player location, to be mined by hand. Since nobody really cares about nether quarries, finding a good design that still works and isn't hundreds of thousands of blocks large wasn't easy. This even got worse for silk quarries, but I'll get to that in a second. Cadenda published a small nether quarry on his YouTube channel not too long ago, and after testing the design it still seems usable. To actually have it do something, I cleared out a 75,000 block area, somewhere at the edge of my nether perimeter, mostly because a perfect schematic verification is very satisfying. Don't really have a lot to explain here. These machines fly down, grabbing some blocks, those get pushed forward and blown up and collected with a long minecart rail, since water isn't a thing in the nether. It can even collect ancient debris because the blocks get pushed in the same tick as the TNT blows up, giving it 0 blast resistance. I couldn't find a silk quarry that had any competence whatsoever, so I had the beautiful idea to simply make my own. Oh god. So this is what I came up with. It's very similar to the nether quarry, where a machine gets sent forward to take up to 8 blocks back to the station. They are stuck to the flying machine though, so before being able to mine them, they need to be moved onto the same plane. Another flying machine pushes them upwards to the player to be mined. Designing this was definitely a challenge, but remember, I only need a working design, no matter how insanely slow it is. This is one huge problem with silk quarries, since you don't clear an area big enough to be able to move the entire machine forward. This basically means the longer you run it, the slower it gets. The good news? The design is versatile, meaning I can build one for deep slate, one for normal stone and one for the nether, and they all work without any problems. Phew, I'm getting tired explaining this. Here's the Cronus and quarry. Timelapse, go! It gives you endstone, and that's really the entire story. Next category. I'm really going to take my foot off the gas here for a second, just to calm down a bit. I don't have a villager breeder anymore, and I know they don't really make a new item, but it's still nice to have. I also need a trading hall, but again, I don't need a trading hall, which is my reason for keeping it as ugly as it is. I have a fish farm already if I use the mob bucket farm with my sword instead of buckets. But a fishing farm still makes more unique items like enchanted books, pufferfish, more nautilus shells than my drowned farm, and name tags. This thing is actually pretty nice. Here is an auto brewing station I will never use, just input the items in the right order and wait. That is the last category done. Wait, I did not forget about the leaf farms. It took ages to get to this point, but actually leaf farms aren't too bad. There is exactly one good design, capable of producing all major 1x1 tree leaves: oak, birch, spruce, acacia, jungle and azalea. Someone else designed a makeshift mangrove and cherry leaf farm that wasn't particularly optimized, but it worked. I made my own dark leaf farm with a simple cart track on the top, barely dodging the TNT. These farms are weird and I don't think God intended them, but not like I care. Time to build these in the last 1.19 time-lapse. Welcome to 1.20. After reading through all the comments on part 1, there are exactly 3 farms I didn't include in the list. Those are grass, mycelium and dead coral converters, so here they are. I know they don't look like farms, but come on, converting dirt to grass before placing it is a mechanic I will never use. Even though it doesn't seem like it, they can be run fully automatically with well-timed autoclickers that simply wait an hour or so before breaking and replacing the block. This time can be significantly decreased for the coral converter. I also forgot to add the nylium converter while we're at it, increasing the total to 140 farms. Small reminder that all schematics and credits are in my Discord server for free, please don't ask in the comments where they are. Now, if I step back and look what's left, I'm basically done. My mangrove and cherry leaf farm also makes a small number of cherry logs, but I will definitely make a faster farm for this in the future. Currently, I don't care though. Pink petals are bone meal spam, so that wasn't hard to design. Lastly, sniffers sniff out mud, so by placing hoppers below you get torchflower seeds and pitcher pots. You can breed sniffers using those inside the same farm to drop sniffer eggs. Yes, you can farm everything new in 1.20 with 2 farms. If you paid attention, that is every farm completed. I will probably keep on making every new version's farms as long as I feel like it, but after 5,800 hours in this world, the biggest project yet is completed. As promised, here are the combined statistics for both parts. And watch out for New Year's, because there will be a 20,000 day world tour and free download on my second channel. Merry Christmas and goodbye.